But football without fans is not. You play a football match without fans, you're getting it. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch it, it becomes nothing.
And to Johnston. Johnson. And a goal by Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in! Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura! He has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won. Champions, that's who we are.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms. It is Tuesday the 2nd. Hello. Aye, I'm telling Paddy, how you doing, mate? Apart from taking the piss out of me so early on.
That's just my usual fucking shenanigans in it. Nah, all good, mate, all good, pal.
Awesome. And to the viewers, hope you're all good too. Hope you had a good weekend. Well, I spoke to you on Sunday after the Celtic and Aberdeen game, 2-0. Today, we're obviously going to be talking about the very, very sad news of John Yogi Hughes passing away. We're also going to be talking about the other topics such as the Celtic third strip. We've had a teaser for that. Ange's high standards in terms of his post-match comments. We're also going to be looking at possibly Sevco's luck running out with the European draw and how that could affect Celtic with the balance of power in Scotland. There's also Peter Lawwell rumours that he might be rejoining the club. And of course, there is potential heartbreak on the horizon for our Patrick as the news surfaces of James McCarthy's impending departure. I hope you're doing okay, mate. And
lies,
another
media lies.
Fake news, and the
Fake news.
Fake news, mate. And the preview for Ross County and Celtic, which is on this Saturday, 3 o'clock, the 6th of August. But to the viewers, hope you're all well. We're going to start off with John Yogi Hughes. Very, very sad, Patrick. Don't know why I called you Patrick there. A Celtic hero. He was there at the good times and at the bad times as well. He is one of the top scorers in Celtic's history. No easy feat. And he was a Celtic man through and through. I think that's one of his well-known comments. He said that he just wants to be remembered simply as a Celtic man. Before we go into it, go through all the stats, all the kind of highlights, Patrick, what was your thoughts whenever he died? Obviously, condolences to the family.
Yeah, again, it's another untimely death we've got on our hands when another legend has gone again. And that's exactly what it was, mate. It was a legend, part of the Lisbon Live squad. Obviously never made it onto the game at the final in Lisbon, but certainly still one of the gang. So again, it's mere sad news following Alex Bertie, I think was the last one. So aye, it's always sad, mate, when you see the older ones start to go, but it is what it is. It's part of life, but I think as long as you share the good memories and that, and it's about all you can do with it.
Aye, exactly, mate. Well said. And although it's a sad day, it's moments like this where we need to celebrate the Celtic heroes. And the family, actually, the family of John Hughes put it on Twitter that it was actually watching the Celtic game at home on the telly, Celtic against Aberdeen. They actually was singing along to "You'll Never Walk Alone." That's quite touching. But it's even better to know that he was with his family at the time of his passing. To the vast majority of the viewers this evening, obviously you'll know about John Yogi Hughes. To anyone who doesn't know, well, we're happy to let you know about the guy. And of course, with the viewers going to interact with us on this one, give us your comments, any memories that you have, anyone lucky enough to have actually seen him in the flesh, because myself and Paddy are just a bit too young. But Paddy spent 12 years at Celtic. He joined in 1959, left in 1971. He was actually born in Coatbridge. And the stats, you know, I mean, the goals that he scored, he was like a winger, striker, forward. I think he could play in the left or in the right. It's remarkable the amount of goals that he scored, despite playing sometimes on the flanks. So he got 416 appearances, and he scored 189 goals. Fantastic feat. Whenever you compare that to the amount of caps that he had for Scotland, maybe not surprising considering he was a Celtic player. He only had 8 caps for Scotland. But in his tenure at Celtic, he got 7 league titles, 5 League Cups, 4 Scottish Cups, and of course the big one, the European Cup. Actually, Paddy, you said that he missed out in the final, and that's true. He actually was in the squad going up until that game. He last played for us that before the final. I think it was on the 3rd of May, when we played Dundee United. He was in that squad, and he actually picked up an injury, and unfortunately that hampered his fitness, and he had to rule himself out, which of course, you know, he may or may not have rued, you know, years after. But he's definitely remembered. He played 5 of the 9 games in that European campaign, so without a doubt, definitely a deserving member of the Lisbon Lions squads. So, you know, he played a massive part. And even a couple of years later, when we got to the European Cup final again in 1970, in the semi-final, he scored a very, very important goal for Celtic against Leeds. And I think that's actually the record for the highest ever European attendance. I think it was about 136,000, I think. Unbelievable that the amount of people who attended that game. We actually, the rumour was back in 1963, we knocked back a bid from Juventus. You can imagine how things would have changed if he actually went off to Italy. This man for Coatbridge went off to Italy and saw his fortune there, and how things could have been different for Celtic. But he was in a lot of pivotal games, not least the 1965 Scottish Cup final against Dunfermline, and that was the one that sparked it off, you know, the Billy McNeill header. And from there on, we had the golden age of Celtic. Paddy, you know, everybody knows the guy's name. Most people do. Let's just hope that by us doing this for homage, you know, the other Celtic podcasts, we pass on the good memories to the younger generation to be educated about the Celtic legends.
Well, as you said earlier on, mate, we clearly never grew up watching the guy playing, but we heard the stories passed on from our old man. Everybody like that, we saw the videos, we've read the info, seen the stats, and it's all great stuff, you know. We kind of grew up in the era where there was a John Yogi Hughes playing for Celtic, but it was obviously your man for Edinburgh, the big centre back, who was given that moniker after the original Big Yogi. And there's Alan Woods asking a question. Was it not for Big Yogi that the term feed the bear came from? My era, it was Roy Aitken, obviously. Yeah, just a wee bit I was reading. Was that when Big Hughes was playing, Yogi Bear was the cartoon at the time. And that's how it all started, you know. Somebody and the crowd started shouting feed the bear, and it was because of Yogi Bear, because he was like a big bear type thing, big kind of powerful guy, no particularly fast, which was quite strange, even though he played in the wings, you know what I mean? It wasn't quite fast, but according to other reports is that he was the man who was the kind of best player for playing at harder pitches, you know, kind of rugged grunts, tough defenders and that. So another legend gone, mate, but everything you've said there, like, it will resonate with everybody that likes to hear about football and watch football and obviously watch Celtic. I mean, we were talking about the banners the other day, how like it's good to introduce kind of new Celtic supporters and tell them about legends and pass on your history and your knowledge. And that's all you can do with guys like John Hughes, and that's is pass on whatever knowledge you've got, kind of whatever stories you've got. And there's Kenny hit us with one as well. Gav, I was at that Leeds game. It was said the crowd was 135,000. Take it from me, there was more than that. It was absolutely mental, and I was so glad I was in the red stand.
What a group of witnessed Kenny Rogers. You were part of that golden age for the fans. We got to witness so many highs. Brilliant. I'm jealous.
Very good. I think, what is it, Gav? Is he 7th or 8th in the all-time top goal scoring list?
I think it might be 7. Yeah. no easy feat. He's one of 29 Celtic players who's scored a century or more goals. Fantastic striker. And it must have been, the competition must have been fierce. Of course it would have been fierce. I think after a period where Jock Stein had a lot of power with the board, and he never really sanctioned any moves. So we had a good core of quality players. And the likes when you've got Willie Wallace and Stevie Chalmers playing up front, and you've got Lennox and Johnson on the wings. How he managed to play so many games and score so many goals is obviously a testament to how good he was, even though that the competition was fierce with the Lions. But he actually scored in his debut. So he signed for us in 1959, made his debut in 1960, and that was a 2-1, 2-0 victory against Third Lanark. Not bad scoring on your debut there.
Absolutely.
Anyway, let's move on from that. But of course, keep it coming in with your memories of John Hughes. That topic stays open for the rest of this podcast for tonight. And so we want to hear from you. Give us your interaction. As Dyla, whatever her name is, Dyla Smith would say, "Let's be having you," and that includes Dyla Smith, that chef.
Delia Smith.
Dyla Smith. And so the interaction coming in, and that includes Frank Brennan, the Grim Reaper of football opinions. So,
yes, Frank, this is your time, mate. This is your moment to step up and teach us youngins about your history. Same and all with Kenny. Thanks for your comments already, mate. Well appreciated.
Right, Paddy. Right, we did the post-match review of the Celtic and Aberdeen game, but then there was further comments of Ange Postecoglou that came out, and it was a look at the high standards that he's expecting. He went for Jota. Now, some people might think that that's a wee bit unfair doing in the media, but my opinion is that my take on it is, don't know if you'll agree, but some of the managers I've heard of, like Alex Ferguson, whenever they're trying to cajole the team, they'll actually pick out the best player in the squad, because that means that if you're like a teammate and you're sitting in a dressing room or whatever, or if you're reading the papers afterwards, you're thinking, well, if Postecoglou's pulling up one of the best players in their team, then I wonder what he thinks about my performance. And I think it just kind of motivates everybody to do well. I think Jota has got the type of mentality where he's actually confident enough to take that on board and not let it affect his performances. Whereas people like, I don't know, maybe Kyogo, that would affect him more. For example, just one player I'm plucking out at the top of my head. So I've got no issue with that. And of course, Jota did the business. He scored a fantastic goal. But anyway, the comments were, apart from Jota, he was just saying that we cannot be wasteful with chances. Don't take it for granted because we score, or because we create a lot of chances that you'll score maybe the next goal. That it's okay to miss that one. We need to be more clinical. And he rubbished whatever a question was put to him about, well, it's only the first game. You'll expect that Celtic will get into the rhythm. And he said, no, the season's already started, and I want high standards now. I like that. What was your thoughts on that one, mate?
Same again, mate. I actually had to read that a couple of times to realise who the player that he was actually talking about, because it never the link that I was sent, it never mentioned any particular names. But then it did at the bottom. I just couldn't fucking read it right. Funny enough. But no, that's exactly what I want for the manager. I want honest. I want kind of transparency. And if he's coming out and no having a hairdryer moment or anything, but he's certainly coming out and maybe try to use a wee bit of reverse psychology with Jota. Because listen, we all said it at the time, the performance at the weekend was really, really good, but it could have been a bit more clinical. Some of the players looked as if they were kind of enjoying themselves a bit too much and taking their eye off the main aim, which was getting themselves well in front and securing the match. So a few wee bits and bobs that we've got to tweak. Maybe some guys are kind of enjoying their hype too much, but it was a good atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? So some of them were certainly playing to the crowd, but sometimes you just need to focus that wee bit more. So I think the way Ange put it across was, it wasn't him blasting them or anything. It was just saying, right, let's fucking keep the heat here, play our game, and get things over the line quicker.
Exactly. I think Ange is best placed of everybody to know how vital it is to make a strong start to the season. Last year, of course, we lost of the opening 7 games domestically, we lost 3 of them, and that made it an uphill battle to regain the top position in the league, which we eventually did. But Ange now knows we need to get off to a good start. And we've got a few hard games in the opening 5, 6, 7 league fixtures. And we're away to Ross County the weekend, which we'll speak about later on. So I'm loving that. Paddy, any comments that we want to bring up before we move on?
Just guys are talking amongst themselves on the sideline here. Just having a wee bit of discussion about Yogi Hughes and there's Feed the Bear, baby. How you doing, Feed the Bear, son? Nice to see you again, pal. Here's an idea somewhere at Paradise. Why not have a statue of all of the Lisbon Lions in a huddle and get them all together? Stephen cooked up. Stephen, how do even Gavin, Paddy? How we doing, guys? A statue of the Lisbon Lions doing a huddle. It's a nice idea, mate. But for me personally, I wouldn't have that because they never done the huddle. But I get the sentiment behind it, mate. It is nice, like, but I don't think they would do anything like that. But listen, we can certainly fucking immortalise them in conversation. But listen, they're immortal anyway, as Alan was just said there. But we'll just we'll carry on, mate. We'll continue on the legacy. Tell the Waynes, tell everybody.
Right, mate. What do you make of Celtic's third strip? So the pictures went out. Is it silver or grey? I would maybe call it silver.
I don't know, maybe it's fucking honking.
You're not a fan.
No.
Because McGinty's the fashionista out of the 3 of us. But you're dead against it.
No, I'm not against it, mate. I just don't particularly like it. I seen the bit that was on the sleeve, right, and it looked like a kind of fucking geometric kind of design. I'm like, what the fuck's that? And then I read into it, and apparently it's a copy of, see the stanchions outside the stadium. The actual metal's supposed to be in the shape of that type thing, but it's for me, mate, it's a honking effort for Adidas, and I think they've actually been all right since they've come in. So not a fan at all. But hey, it's not a fucking fashion contest, mate. As long as they win when they're playing it, and hopefully they wear it more than fucking twice. You know what I mean? Especially if people are going to be sharing out 60 odd quid for their Waynes to get it, but not. So
I think I might hold off from buying this one. Another thing that annoys me is the actual badge. You can't really see it clearly.
Can't really see it, aye.
Because of the colour of it. I think it's, in my opinion, it's an improvement on last year's third top. That was an abomination. Understand they're trying to do something different, but
what was that again?
It's an improvement on last year's third kit.
That's what I'm saying. What was the third one again last year?
So it was white, and then you had like these kind of green and pink thin stripes.
Oh right, aye, the candy stripe one. Aye. Do you know what? Actually, see when I saw that first, mate, I was nearly sick. It offended my eyes, offended my soul. But do you know what, mate? I actually looked no bad. I bought the wee fella, and it looked nice. It grew on me. So possibly this one might, but no, it's fucking horrendous.
We will see.
As always, my wee pal for Coatbrig. Still not quite there yet, but you know what I'm talking about. I've got an idea, but I don't know.
Is the boy that you went to college with back in the day, is it? Right?
Well, apparently I used to hold his toolbox, but maybe that's still been a private fucking comment there.
Right, so James McCarthy, the rumour is that he is heading out. There was a lot of dismay from the Celtic fans. What have we got for Palman? I'm glad I bought last season's t-shirt. If I hear these stories about the new one, mate, you're obviously a big Giakoumakis fan. Correct me if I'm wrong. You got Giakoumakis at the back of your top. You got one for yourself and for your father, if I'm not mistaken. Good on
anyway, if anybody doesn't know the legend that is Palman, he's a new Celtic. He's a new supporter to Celtic. He's based in Great. based in Greece, mate. He's a VVV Venlo supporter, and he's joined on the green and white train on the back of Jackie Marcus. But always a pleasure to have you on, mate. Always a pleasure to see the comments.
I don't think Palman is Greek based. I think he's Dutch.
Sorry, excuse me. Sorry, based in Netherlands. Talking about Jackie Marcus there. Sorry, Palman. Dutch, mate.
Double Dutch. Right, okay, so your pal McCarthy,
Where is the shirt under today?
he's still suffering the hangover of crazy celebrations following England women's victory over Germany. Women's football. That would be an ecumenical matter, I believe. Aye, so James McCarthy, Paddy, talk to me about it.
Don't know what you want me to say, mate. So obviously there's rumours being reported in the press that he's looking for a move. He's disappointed that he's lacking game time and involvement in the squad. I know some people are probably going to be delighted if it goes. Me, I wouldn't really take any pleasure in it, because he's always a player that I wanted to see at Celtic. I thought we used to sign him about 10 or 11 years ago for Hamilton. I thought he was great at Everton. You know, delighted when he actually signed with Celtic. It's just no worked out. Whether that's down to him no fitting into the squad, no being fast enough for Postecoglou's team tactics, whatever. I don't know. I know he wasn't particularly fit when he came in at the start last season. But whatever it is, mate, if it's no work to it, then hopefully something gets sorted out for both parties. But it doesn't seem to be that the McCarthy gamble is going to work out. But see really, Gav, is he going to be a player that we're going to miss? That's the issue.
Well, you will, but everybody else might not. I think.
No, I'll miss him for the fact that I wanted him to do well, mate. I thought, guy finally getting his dream move to Celtic, which every single one of us Celtic supporters can only hope and dream that we could have ever done something like that. He's lived the hopes and dreams of every Celtic supporter by pulling on that tap. But he's obviously now into the professional heat where it's not happening for one reason or another. Is he good enough? Is he not good enough? Does it just not fit into Ange's philosophy? I don't know, but
I find it refreshing that he's sitting on a good contract. He's got another 3 years remaining. He'll be on half decent money, I'd imagine. But I find it refreshing that the rumours are that he's willing to instigate a move elsewhere. He's not content to just pick up a wage if he's not going to be in the plans. I like that. Not everybody would have that mentality, so it's nice to see. Same here, Paddy. I thought the same about McCarthy, but he hasn't had a sniff. It is unfortunate. It's actually quite interesting to see how, because him, James McCarthy, and you had the other guy, James MacArthur, both from who played for Hamilton. It's interesting to see just guys with two very, very similar names playing the same position in midfield, and they played for a few of the same teams. Wigan notably as well as Hamilton. It's interesting to see how MacArthur's career has transpired in comparison and contrast to James McCarthy. Is there any other kind of players that you can think of who you were dying to see them pull on the hoops, but it was a bit of an anticlimax? Anyone else that you can think of?
Robbie Keane was definitely one of them. Everybody in their granny wanted to see him in a Celtic top. Then, fortunately, that one actually did get through. But you look at what happened in that season. He was one of the players who came in and he was far too good for the squad. His movement was light years ahead. The other players couldn't keep up with him. A wee bit kind of similar sometimes to Kyogo. You can see how good Kyogo's movement is, and he's always 2 steps ahead. But at times, sometimes the midfielders haven't really been switched on and kind of projected his movement. So that's a player like that. But listen, there's some team players, mate, that could have signed for Celtic that we all wish. But again, mate, I don't want to be too negative on McCarthy. I know there's a few comments that are pretty much like-minded kind of ideas in there. So there's one for Kaiser. McCarthy out, sheer delight. Wage burglary, averted 4-year deal was a joke. Glad he's on his way out. No more board signings. Yes, probably a 4-year deal. Certainly looked a bit of a shocker when we heard that. But this whole board signing, this whole just blanket board signing statement, I don't think they can go with that because it obviously James McCarthy was a fucking Dermot Desmond signing, right? No doubts about it. But then so was Joe Hart. So was players like that. I think if you look at the whole squad of players that's came in under Postecoglou, I think you can probably put down in maybe one hand the actual Ange signings that are Ange signings. You know what I mean? Every player that's come through has been through a collective with the scouting department, maybe guys through the board. I don't know. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Like Scales hasn't worked. He's away at Aberdeen again. That must have been another fucking Dermot Desmond signing. But then again, are we just saying that because they're Irish? So we just need to assume that it was Dermot Desmond. It's one of the ones, mate. Unless we get concrete information, we don't know. But I think in this case with James McCarthy, we can imagine like he was pushed forward. But it's no work to it. Which is a shame. But hey ho.
So,
sorry, Gab. I'm just going to comment on this one. There's 2 comments came through here for the same thing. Lisbon Girl would love to see James McLean in a Celtic strip, and Stephen Coulter, Robbie Keane always wanted to see James McLean at Celtic, but it won't happen. Yes, absolutely right. So basically, without naming any names, I was told that last season or the season before, James McCarthy's representatives approached Celtic and says, who did I say that? James McLean's representatives approached Celtic and said, this man's desperate to play for Celtic. He'll come up here and he'll play for a pittance. And he was given the reply of blank, no, he will never play for Celtic because of his social media reputation.
On a sporting point of view, I passed it. He was a good player in his day, and he would have done very, very well in Scotland. But now, a year ago, 2 years ago, for me, he was still past it. But that's an interesting one. If there's no smoke without fire with that rumour, very, very interesting. If Celtic would base that transfer decision on someone's social media profile. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Like
there's another one there, mate. Sorry. Anthony Inglis, we should have signed Stephen Fletcher in 2009. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Stephen Fletcher would have been a fantastic signing back then. Certainly would have been a more welcome addition than Lawwell Flood. But the thing with the Fletcher deal was everybody always seems to think, the board were penny pinching this and that, which they go to all the line, but it didn't work out with that. If everybody remembers, it was the Hibs chairman, fucking Rod Petrie at the time, says, I will never sell him to Celtic. And we put the bids in for him, and he point blank refused to do any business with us. So.
The other thing I was going to say to you about McLean, I remember asking you over a month ago on the podcast, who do you think would have got a harder time, hypothetically, if McLean did sign for Celtic? Who would have had a harder time in terms of from the rival fans, the sectarianism, the treatment from the media, I think you call it hibernophobia, correct me if I'm wrong, bias against Irish players. So who would have had a harder time? What we witnessed from Neil Lennon, that was fucking bad. Get attacked in the street, get attacked on the park, it was what own work group. Or potential James McLean. Who do you think would have had a harder time with it?
Probably. I think it would have probably been James McLean. We all know the kind of abuse that Lennon took over the years. It's there for everybody to see. It's in writing, it's in video, it's in fucking testimony, it's there. James McLean would have got it 100 times, I think, more than what Lennon did. You look at the abuse that he takes down in England now. simply because he doesn't fall into the poppy fascism fucking tight role. You know, he sticks to his guns and he is absolutely slaughtered. He's constantly on Twitter. I say constantly, but he likes to post up on Twitter and point out the hypocrisy and the whole terms of tackling racism in football. You know, everybody's quite rightfully, everybody's more than happy to defend. You know, your your fucking black BAME players, BAME, whatever, blacks, Africans, Muslims, anybody, you know, takes any racist abuse. Quite rightfully, it's kind of jumped up on and it's dealt with at the time. But every single time, you know, James McCarthy's called all sorts names that you can imagine for simply sticking up for his beliefs, and there's not one thing done about that. The anti-Irish racism he receives on a weekly basis and has done for years. So if that's what he's getting done in England, you can imagine what it would be like if he came up to Scotland with a fucking free dairy tattoo and he's like, you know, the guy is what he is, and he doesn't hide it. So fucking fair play to him for sticking to his convictions. But yes, McLean would have got it 100 times better than what Lennon did.
I agree with you about the anti-Irish discrimination, but there's so many what you call it
racism, Gavin.
Yeah, there's and all the intersectionalities of the identity politics that we see in society. Everybody's protected, but it seems like anti-Irish, anti-Catholic is the one thing where it's not really protected. It's not really protected. It's just it's strange. It's very, very strange. If you're a foreigner and like you hear about that, you wonder why. Why is it allowed to happen when everybody else is protected? And you talk about systematic racism. Well, I'd point you towards that systematic racism against Irish people. Yeah, an interesting one. But yeah, James McLean obviously never signed for Celtic, but it would have been interesting if he did during his heyday. It would have been brilliant on the park, but he would have had a very, very tough time off it. No time for talk shites, Adrian Durham, but he stood up for James McLean's views. Mm-hmm.
By the way, Windsor, you need to tell us a bit more about that, because I'm finding it seriously hard to believe that absolute scudbook Adrian Durham would have anything good to say about James McLean. I'm not calling you a liar, mate. I'd just love for you to tell me exactly what he says, because that's fucking that would blow your mind up. What's this? Donny Boy, if he came to Celtic, he'd be abused, but loved and protected by his brothers and sisters. Of course he would, but I think his shoulders are big enough. You know, he's been taking the abuse for almost a whole country, his own support. So I'm pretty sure that he could come up here if he was doing it for a cause, i.e. playing for his boyhood club. But listen, believe me, 100%, it's never going to happen. So, of course, it's hypothetical. But no, it's a good question, that, Gav. That is a good question.
The other thing I would say, mate, before we kind of head off, is that he might have been brave enough to take the flak, but no fear in his family. No fear in building and having a wife up that day and be out going to the playground and kids are bullying you, saying this and that about your father. That's a horrible thing to do. I'm saying as if I've been through that, which I've not, but you can just imagine the abuse that the family gets as well. Yeah. Big Paddy, Peter Lawwell then. The rumours are that he might be the replacement for, I know it's... Have you been too negative? We need a more positive subject to talk about. So Ian Bankier, the Tory chairman, has now departed Celtic after X amount of years. And the rumour is Peter Lawwell could be his replacement. A lot of people are not surprised at these links. One thing that I'm curious to ask, Enda could tell me, is what is the remit of a chairman? We know what a CEO does, and that's Michael Nicholson's job. But what is the remit of a chairman? So, Paddy, a lot of people are, some people are really, really furious at the Peter Lawwell link, and they're associating that with the past mistakes that he had, how he was power hungry, how he was making football decisions, which really were his decisions to make. They associate a lot of bad things of the past 10 odd years, failure in Champions League, things like that, on him alone. What's your thoughts on it, though?
Right, see, for this question, mate, I'm going to try and be as impartial as possible. I'm going to try and find some good points, and I'm clearly, obviously, going to bring up some negative points. So, first and foremost, see when I saw the news that Ian Banker was retiring at the end of the year, I believe, is it?
Yes.
I was delighted, absolutely delighted, because for me, that guy is a fucking, he's a cancer at the club. And I know, you know, some people will say he's did this and did that, and he's been a big major part. But for me, nah, he just kind of personifies everything that's wrong with the board. And that came to fruition when he made that comment about Celtic supporters at an AGM. I can't remember it word for word, but it basically called Celtic supporters fucking bigoted racists or something. So for a chairman to be coming out and saying stuff like that at a meeting like that is fucking preposterous. And again, he was another guy who, through the whole 10 in a row season, was one of these guys who's kept his mouth shut. You know, Celtic supporters were clamouring, they were absolutely begging to get some sort of an interaction with the board during the COVID season, wanting to know what was happening, this and that. And again, one of the guys that kept stum sat there, took his pretty penny, and it was almost like, shut the fuck up, peasants, do as you're told. Him and his pal Lawwell. So when I heard the news he was retiring, delighted. And then I think within about 2 years or something, I saw the news that your man, Pistol Pete, was rumoured to be taking over. And I thought, right, okay. My first thought was like, for fuck's sake, no him again, man. But then I thought, you know what? When Lawwell announced his retirement as the CEO, for me, in my opinion, that was to take all the deflection off of Neil Lennon and to take the deflection off of the total catastrophic fucking season that we had. So he kind of took that upon his shoulders because he was going to leave anyway, you know. And then there was the whole thing with working with Don Mackay, all this and that. So when it was kind of announced that he may be coming back as a chairman, that bastard. But then you think about it, Lawwell was, without shadow of a doubt, the CEO in one of our most successful domestic periods in the club's history. Right, there's no denying that. We've all got our beefs and our butts about him. Could have done this, he could have done that, he should have stuck his fucking nose out, shouldn't be doing this and doing that. But in terms of his overall job, I think he done reasonably well. When he started to interfere with the sporting side of it, i.e., kind of putting the blockers on players, being part of kind of direct transfer talks, that's when everybody started to think, hold on, you're getting a bit too big for your boots, mate. So anyway, he's left. But Gav, did he actually leave? In my eyes, absolutely not. And I told you this a long, long time ago. I says that man is still lurking in the shadows, like one of the fucking shady characters for Spectre, James Bond, controlling things like a big octopus. The guy's he's a majority shareholder at the club. He's still got his big fat fingers and lots of big fat pies at the club.
I think like that's a fairly measured view. I agree with a lot of what you said. One of the things that really rankles me was the Marienschwed signing, where Rodgers actually came out. The relationship must have been that bad. But he came out in the media and said that I've never seen him before. He's not one of my players. That talk about like airing your dirty laundry in public. You know what I mean? That looked terrible on us, and that was down to Peter Lawwell. Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe he's got friends in the scouting department, and they suggest a player to him, and then he fucking takes the idea and has delusions of grandeur. I don't know why he does that sort of thing when business is his forte, not football. Two separate things. But in terms of you're thinking about his influence, yes, he's still got an influence, but I would say that whenever he gave up his role as chief executive officer, he abdicated his authority. He doesn't have the same authority anymore because he's no longer the CEO. We've got a new guy in place, a young guy, and we were expecting a new vision, fresh ideas. With Lawwell coming back in, it does kind of contradict that. But at the same time, if he's only a chairman, again, I'll go back to my original point. What is the remit of a chairman as opposed to a chief executive? I would like to think, if I was being optimistic, I'd like to think that this will not be a full-time job, like 10 hours every day sort of thing, It's not going to be as involved as what he was as the CEO. I would like to think this will be a more laid-back contribution he has to Celtic. He can just focus on the business things until he retires. But again, we might be getting ahead of ourselves here. It's not concrete. It's just
Well, obviously, I'm not exactly versed on what a football chairman does, but clearly, some of the things that you would imagine that he does is he would be the main vote. He would be the deciding vote in any kind of board votes, stuff like that. He would be responsible for running the actual club, which isn't a kick in the arse after what he was doing as a CEO. So he certainly would have major responsibilities, Gav. But the thing for me was, what was Peter Lawwell actually going to retire when he was the CEO? Did he have any idea, any kind of inklings that he was going to leave, or proper kind of comments to say, I'm out of here? So the thing for me that kind of resonates was what I was saying before, that I think he took the dairy for that season, and he got out of dodge in terms of public face. So he was always in the background. He was always going to be working in, and then might have been a case of saying, listen, soon as the dust has died down, soon as things get better again, because this is what happens. Certain people come in and certain people try to take the credit whenever things are good, and they don't do it when things are bad. We'll get you back into a position of power, even though you're still there, but we'll do it officially. Right, now, enough of the fucking the conspiracy heat. If I was to sit back and look at this objectively, right, one hand you've got Peter Lawwell, who was, on paper, a top CEO, right? He's got massive experience. He's dealt with the SFA. He's been on the party. He's been on the European boards as well. He's done everything that a CEO could. Would he then be able to transition in and be a good chairman? I think probably, on paper, But again, the whole thing here is, it's fucking Peter Lawwell. We know what his dark side has been at Celtic. We know where his good side has been at Celtic. For me, see, when you're talking about transfers, Gav, there is a kind of positive point towards that, because we know about the likes of Shved, we know about the likes of the kind of tough time that Rodgers got in terms of being bypassed on transfer targets. But then you look at what was probably done behind the scenes as well. We look at the guy who's been announced at the tail end of last season is coming in, Mark Lawwell, his son, who was a big part in the City group. Don't tell me that Peter Lawwell wasn't phoning up Mark Lawwell and saying, by the way, can we do a deal with Man City? Can we get guys like Encham and Roberts? How do you think we got all the guys from Man City? There was clearly a fucking behind the scenes link, which is fine. I don't mind that, because we ended up with guys like Roberts, Encham, fucking Boyata, who else? Denier, Arzani, guys like that. And I think the City group also translates onto PSG as well. So I think Edward might have been something to do with that kind of background dealings as well. So there is positive towards it, mate. But the only thing that's going to be a worry is that we've saw the fruits of Michael Nicholson. Right now, Michael Nicholson's obviously come in and taken Lawwell's position as the CEO, and as it stands now, mate, everything looks great, fantastic. We've went totally berserk and signed fucking like 17 million pounds worth of players this season under Michael Nicholson and Ange and the rest of the scouting team. Mark Lawwell's coming in to work beside Ange as part of the transfer team as well. So he's going to be using his experience, he's going to be using his contacts to get players in. So the two sides of my worries is that, is Lawwell going to come back in as chairman and things are going to go back to the way it used to be? Penny pinching, fucking no going out and speculating to accumulating, getting in good players, going out and actually signing £7 million more or less on Jota, £7 million on Carter Vickers, when we know that that's the players that we've identified and that's the guys that we want. The other side to that, which I'm thinking as well, is if Mark Lawwell is coming in as one of the top guys in the transfer team, right? And we all know how a certain person can take the flak for the support. So say for talk's sake, if we miss out on transfer targets because of £500,000 or we don't go for this guy and go for that guy, people's going to say, right, Mark Lawwell, you're part of that, you're a cunt. Do you think if Daddy Bear is at the upper echelons of the club, do you think he's going to actively put the blockers on something that his son's trying to do, therefore putting his son in the firing line for the flank of the supporters? Do you know what I mean? Or is he going to do everything in his power to help paint this guy in a positive light, as well as Celtic? This is a conundrum for me, because if it was my boy that was in charge of the transfer committee, was a major partner, I'd be like, here, there's another £4 million towards a player. You've signed him. You take the credit for
it. A lot of scepticism. I want to hear from the viewers on this one.
Let's hear from McGinty, because he's just appeared. Right, son? No, McCarthy hasn't gone yet, so get up here.
Right. I wanted to kind of compare this. So you saw the displeasure of the fans with the protests, with the banners, whenever the rumoured appointment of Bernard Higgins was. It was last year. Now I know Bernard Higgins and Peter Lawwell, it's apples and oranges, two different characters. One guy lacking in morals. I'm talking about Bernard Higgins, and Ange Postecoglou, we just might not like the way that he works sometimes. So, how do you think the fans would express their displeasure in comparison to the levels that we saw against Bernard Higgins? Do you think it would reach the same heights? I don't think so. As I said, it's apples and oranges, but still, a lot of people won't welcome this appointment. So I was wondering if we would expect banners and tifos coming from some sections of the Celtic support. Could we see another wedge driven between the fans and the club at this, or is it not that big a deal?
No, I would say that there's certainly going to be a massive backlash. Obviously, like Bernard Higgins. So if you were to put the Bernard Higgins rumoured fucking appointment towards the Lawwell rumoured appointment, the reason that fans were so up in arms, and it was mostly a certain section of fans who were physically put in harm, whose lives were fucking attacked by that absolute bastard that was Bernard Higgins. People were put in the jail. People were this and that. So that's why there was such an intense backlash and totally up in arms against him. If you're to turn your attention to Pistol Pete, I think it would be merely a football inside, so I don't think it would be as intense as what we saw about Higgins, but listen, there's certainly going to be a lot of people are going to be like, no, we're not having it. And there's a comment from McGinty I'm going to bring up. Ange won't put up with his shite, even at chairman. Fans pretending he wouldn't have a say are deluded. We all know Bankier was hated for the same. And that's another massive worry that I was going to bring up. Thanks for the ring, me pal. I think if Lawwell comes back into power officially, I'm 100% convinced he's still there doing it. That'll probably spell the end of Ange to some degree, because Ange isn't a yes man, as Lanky says there. He needs to have say in what's happened with his football team and his football club. And I think if Lawwell comes back in, then there's going to be massive consternation between the two of them. And it's probably going to be another kind of similar Rodgers-esque situation, whereby things start off great, and then it's just a case of the blockers are put up. You're every single barrier is put in front of you for doing your job.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Unless you're a guy like Neil Lennon, and I'm not going to come down too hard on Lennon here, but Lennon was almost like a fucking puppet for Lawwell.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I'm going to take that back. Sorry, mate. He was a puppet for Lawwell.
See, with McGinty's comment that he said that you're deluded if you don't think that Lawwell will control things. I would say that some people, no offence to McGinty, but some people, their hatred runs so deep with Lawwell that they're the ones who are as equally as deluded. They just can't see past his octopus fingers, his tentacles. I personally, I'm diplomatic to a fault at times. I don't have the same fear as some people do. Why would Lawwell come in and completely change the direction? We've got something good here. We've got reasonably young professionals such as Postecoglou, Mark Lawwell, Michael Nicholson. Why would the father, Peter Lawwell, come in and rip it up when we've got something good and become a hate figure one more time? Don't get that. Why? It doesn't make any good business sense. I don't get that.
Exactly, mate. But we're only going by the kind of the standards that we saw for years. Now, bearing in mind that Mr. Lawwell back in the 90s was part of the financier side of the hated board before Fergus McCann came in, right? And then when Peter Lawwell came back in officially as the CEO, everything was about cost cutting. Martin O'Neill was obviously given a massive budget to bring in a squad that would change the face of Scottish football, i.e. bring the dominance back to Celtic Park. Did Martin O'Neill get anywhere near the same back in his second season? No. His third season? No, absolutely not. And as soon as Martin O'Neill was out the door, Gordon Strachan was brought in, and Peter Lawwell's remit was to fucking basically tighten the belt, get rid of all the big contracts, get in younger guys. Every single season since Martin O'Neill's 2003 venture into the UEFA Cup final, Celtic have never strengthened from a position of strength under Peter Lawwell. Everything has went downhill after a successful season. Right?
I will remind you, Paddy, that we got to the last 16 in the Champions League 3 times under Peter Lawwell's watch. That's not something Martin O'Neill was able to achieve with all his.
No, I get that, mate. But we've never strengthened their position of strength. Everything has been reactionary. Ange's first season was reactionary, right? Ange was brought in as a reactionary. My point is that first season under Ange was magnificent, right? We did so well to turn that run. We ended up with the luck of the draw by getting Ange in. This season, we have strengthened from a position of strength.
Yeah.
By absolutely no fucking qualms about it. And Michael Nicholson, in my mind, has basically fucking the cat's away, so the mouse has come out to play. Every cunt's getting a fucking slice of cheese. Do you know what I mean? If Big Lawwell comes back for his holidays, which is what it's like, the cheeses get put away.
Well, what type of cheese? Is it Dairy Lee? Cheddar?
It'll be fucking Gorgonzola if that Tory bastard gets his fucking tentacles back in.
I think watch this space. That's what I would say. Lawwell, there was good and there was bad. Make no mistake. So I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. 3 times in 19 years, hardly a claim to fame. Aye, mate. Aye. Well, some people want their cake and they want to eat it.
Well, just look at Rodgers, mate. You mentioned Rodgers yourself, right? And there was a public kind of tit for tat, catty comments in the media. Rodgers' first season was absolutely brilliant, unbelievably brilliant. Some of the best football that we'd ever seen. Now, I'm no fucking putting Rodgers up on some sort of pedestal here. It could have been a bit of both, but Rodgers was not backed after his first season. No way. He missed out on X amount of signings. We ended up with cunts like fucking Marvin Compere and Jack Hendry. Do you know what I mean? We missed out on European Champions League so many times because of a frugal fucking manipulative board that wouldn't give the manager the backing. If that man was a fucking charlatan and as Donny Boy there says, if he was chocolate, he would eat himself. That's And regardless, he still didn't get the backing. Do you know what I mean? And the board have to take the board have to take the blame for that. But this is the whole thing. The board are doing well now. Everybody's happy with the board. The board is Michael Nicholson. And the purse strings have been opened. Finally, Celtic aren't this biscuit tin team anymore this season. We've went out, we've done the business early, and we're still trying to get players in. So the biggest worry is that going to change? Is the fucking somebody going to pull the brakes on the Hornets? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't believe that we're going to hit the self-destruction mode anytime soon by letting Lawwell come in as the chairman and him being the dictator of the club. I cannot see that happening. I think some people have seen too many bad movies to actually believe that. We're giving Lawwell a lot of stick for nothing. Wait till he becomes chairman and then criticise him. That's what I'm saying. Watch this space. It's unfair to criticise him at the moment. A lot of people are sceptical. There was good and bad with Lawwell's reign. Paddy, I totally agree with you that we were never proactive. It was always reactionary. And whenever Sevco got reborn as a new club, that necessarily wasn't the greatest thing for us, because at that point we lowered our standards. We lowered our aspirations, our hopes. Peter's never been away from the club. He took a break to move house because his ship got set fire. I shouldn't be laughing at that, because I shouldn't be laughing at that. The old guy is Wizard of Oz behind a big green curtain. Well, we're entitled to our opinions. Watch this space. Watch this space.
Well, again, obviously it's hypothetical, but it's there certainly can be some good points to it. As I say, he is on paper one of the best CEOs that we've ever had. We've seen some of the best domestic success under his tutelage, but we all know, we all know what he can get up to in the shadows. So it's hypothetical, obviously, because we don't know if this is a true rumor or it's just speculation. But for me, mate, there's no smoke without fire. As I say, I'm under no illusions that this man has been working in the backgrounds, in the shadows. No officially, but there. Major shareholder, he's still going to be there doing the dirty.
There we have it. Polar opposite views, but it's good. Good, that's what we're here for. Yeah, plus and negative points concerning Pedro. Right. Paddy, right, okay. I know that we don't like to give Sevco much airtime, but I'm going to ask you this. Is there luck running out with the European draw? So whenever they get past this Belgian mob, we've never actually heard of before, they'll be looking at either PSV or Monaco, two reputable teams in Europe. I spoke to an associate of mine who's affiliated with Sevco, and he is not happy with the draw. So, right. would you think this will? It's very, very good news for us, because if they don't get it in the Champions League, they won't get the bounty. And I'm talking about the balance of power in Scotland, how important it is for us to remain as top dog. What's your thoughts?
Obviously, we need to maintain our position of strength in the league. We need to be the league leaders. We need to win the league. We need to strengthen ourselves financially every time. This is why I get so angry when I think of the amount of times that we missed out on Champions League football. Because for talk's sake, if we'd have got 3 Champions Leagues in a row with Rodgers, we would have had the sole fucking money in Scotland. You know what I mean? We could have went for a position of strength to strength to strength. We could have possibly maybe been on par with like an Ajax in Europe. Didn't happen for reasons that's been discussed. So clearly, obviously, mate, you know my opinions on that. I hope that they get pumped every single game. I hope that they get left without a shilling. And if that means that they get pumped in Europe, then so be it. So hopefully it starts tonight with who is it, Union Royale, something to the guys that have got the fucking fans club that's dedicated to Celtic, I believe.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but that's their name.
The Union Boys.
Union Boys, no affiliation, I think.
But I know it's on paper it's a tough draw, which is good for a change, because it seems that they've had it every single fucking jammy fucking draw that comes out. But again, like last season, they popped Dortmund, who nobody would have suspected that. So we'll just need to wait and see. But the good thing is, like, if they're actually want to go and try to make another charge into Europe, get into the Champions League, then that's going to take a lot of focus and attention as well. So for me, I would be happy. I don't say happy, no. That's probably the wrong word. I would like them to have as many distractions as possible. So hopefully they get into the Europa League so that they're not getting the full focus of attention on the league, whilst we're trying to do something in the Champions League as well.
I think that's very important. I'd prefer if they parachuted down to Europa Sexy rather than the Europa League.
I'd be happy if they parachuted into a volcano, but that's a different. That's a different conversation.
Yeah. Right, Paddy, we're on the home stretch, so let's focus on the game that we've got this weekend. Ross County against Celtic, Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. This will actually be the second time that we play them in the month of August, because we've got a game at the very end, again away in Dingwall to Ross County, and that will be in the Premier Sports. So, Peter Bear, Lanky, the Bonnet, and Tommy kept Celtic going. We help on others. When the Buns died, we should be light years ahead. Losing 10 was the icing on the cake. Made you sick, man.
And there he is, Frank, at least 1 foot on the throat of the skimpy safe coat at all times. Absolutely, mate.
Indeed. Okay, so Ross County then. It's never really a straightforward whenever you're travelling up to Dingwall. Probably one of the least favourite grounds in Scotland. They actually played Hearts last weekend. They apparently did very, very well in the first half for bossing it, but they lost 2-1 at the end. And this is Malcolm Mackay's team. I don't know if they've still got their top scorer from last season. Forget the guy's name. It was like a double barrel surname.
Regan Charles Cook.
Yes, well done. Well remembered, mate. I don't know if he's still playing with Ross County. I think he got about 13 goals, which is not bad considering that he was a winger. But Malcolm Mackay, they're normally going
to Blackburn, weren't he, Gav?
Is that the case? Aye.
Well, okay. So, I'll get the team up the now while we're talking about.
Blackburn now. So Malcolm Mackay's team, they normally are quite a physical bunch. Terrible fucking heartburn, by the way. Well, I'm wondering what your thoughts are, what the viewers' thoughts are. Will it be another straightforward win for Celtic? Is it going to be a hard-fought one? Would you start Giakoumakis rather than Kyogo for this?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting food for thought. So get the comments coming in for that one. How confident are you for the trip to Dingwall? And I was going to finish off. I hate the familiarity of playing a team twice at the same ground, twice in a month. I hate that. But it is what it is. We're a better team. We need to show it. But will it be easy? No.
I don't think it will be easy, mate, because I think they have actually set themselves up pretty decent for the level of team that they are. And obviously Malcolm Mackay's got them playing in a certain fashion. You know, it's kind of strong at the back, the odd dirty tackle here and there. Couple of fast guys in the wings, that kind of thing. For me, I would 100%. I would be starting with big Tony Ralston at right back. I wasn't particularly fond of Juranović's performance at the weekend, and I think Ralston just gives you a lot of outlets. You know, he's good at the back. He's hard to. He's good in the tackle. But his biggest kind of weapon has been he's running down the right hand side. You know, we're not exactly tall up top anyway, you know. But Ralston's one of his best qualities, mate, actually, is his low driven crosses. So if you were to mix that in and tie that in with Giakoumakis starting up front, I think that would be a very, very good combination. As well as having Giakoumakis taking on their defenders, bullying them, rolling them, and allowing guys like O'Reilly, Hatate, possibly even maybe Turnbull, whatever the setup might be, guys for them to go up and support and go and crack off a few shots. And I think that's what we're going to see, mate. I think we're going to see a lot of shots being pinged off here, there, and everywhere. After Postecoglou's comments, you know, that we kind of dilly-dallied on the ball, we tried to showboat a wee bit too much. Maybe never said that excessively, but that's what happened. I think we're going to see a different Celtic animal this weekend, a lot more direct and imposing. So for me, hopefully Ralston starts right back. Hopefully Giakoumakis starts up front.
We certainly remember Ralston's contribution last season when we played a Lawwell. It was a 96-minute winner, and I got piped up that night. I was delirious. It was a brilliant night. Frank Brennan, as I've said previously, Juranovic's head has been turned and he's looking for a way out. Whether he's looking for a way out or not, it's quite possible that you're right, that his head is, that his performance is half affected by the external noise. You could be onto something there. It does happen whether a player wants to try to be professional or not. Sometimes it just subconsciously affects them. But so Ralston was pivotal in the victory at Ross County last season. Was there another victory at Dingwall last season where Kyogo and Jota got in the act? I don't know if it was like we scored 4 goals or something like that. You remember that one?
I think it was that early on in the season, wasn't it? Or is that? Or am I thinking about Dundee?
Dundee. I think I'm getting mixed up with Dundee, mate.
I think that sounds a lot of Dundee, mate.
Yeah, aye. Well, could be a tough game, but I agree. Physicality sometimes on a narrower pitch, people like Ralston can excel as opposed to Juranovic. And yeah, I would want to start Giakoumakis over Kyogo.
Well, see if you start with Ralston as well. There's also that the threat that he gives you aerially. You know, we've obviously seen how he can leap like a salmon in the opposition box and be dangerous up at Dingwall. So that would give you an aerial threat of Ralston, Giakoumakis, obviously hypothetically they're about to start. But there's also Stephen Welsh, who scored that cracking header at the weekend. I don't know if you remember some of the comments made the next day, but did you hear Postecoglou basically bigging up Gavin Strachan for Welsh's goal?
No, tell me more.
He pretty much hinted, mate, that Gavin Strachan's tactics was one of the biggest factors in that Stevie Welsh goal.
Look at a straightforward cross and just poor marking. You know, maybe we did a little shimmy beforehand to.
Or maybe Gavin Strachan's getting a laptop out and he just says, put a big line for there to there to Welsh's Eaton and a line for there to the goal. You know what I mean? And somebody's went, my God, man, that's fucking outstanding. Brilliant.
Oh, aggressive tactics. Fair dues to Gavin Strachan. It's a great one. I think the physicality could be a big part, but then again, we're the better players, technically far better, as long as we've got a good rhythm and we're zipping it about. But then they'll be compact and they'll be shifting from left to right, you know, following the ball, and I think a lot of the danger will be coming down the flanks. So we'll see. Right, Paddy, is there anything else we're going to talk about?
No, mate, I'm absolutely busting for a piss, so we'll probably wrap it up at that.
Yeah, I was going for an hour and 8 minutes. Well, to the viewers, go on and hit that like button, please. I should really say that at the start of the fucking pod, man. But if you're still with us, go and hit the like button, please. Thanks again for watching it. So today's Tuesday, and that'll be Saturday. Again, if we're available, we'll do a post-match review. I hope it will be. Aye, Paddy. So off you go for a pitch.
Thank you, mate. Cheers, everybody, for tuning in, comments, the lot. So, aye, hopefully season Saturday with another one.
Yes. Catches.
Right, catches.